Mark's Reviews and Tutorials video. We're going to be today fitting some mud flaps onto the rear of a 1 Series BMW. These guys, you can see here as the rear wheel kicks out, they really do in the wet, particularly I've noticed driving along, and particularly when I'm following this car, there's quite a big tail of water comes up. But not only for that, I mean, it's obviously not too much fun for the cars behind you, but also just to say there's always a dirty line here where there's a lot of water and muck flicking up. So I've got some Moulded mud flaps here. Now I've just got the cheapy ones off the internet. I'll put a link through to that for you so you can have a look at where to buy these guys. But I've found them very, very good. I put them on the 3 Series down here, sorry, X3 down here. And it has really transformed this. The look of that car, again, they're just the Moulded ones. I'll put the link through to that as well. Really makes a difference. And again, with the X Series particularly, not throwing all of that muck up onto the door. The car stays much cleaner in rain or snow or anything like that. So highly recommend them. I mean, I think they look absolutely fantastic. They're not that expensive. These are just the copy ones again. I'll put a link through to these X3 ones as well. But they do a really good job. And I think they look the part as well on the whole car, particularly when you're looking from the back. On this car today as I put these mud flaps on. Now, there is no way we're going to be fitting those with the wheel on, so we do have to remove the wheel and tyre in order to get the mud flap on. I'll put a link to a video up here as to how to get your wheel and tyre off if you're unsure. Now, having a look here, you'll see when they go on that they really do cover up quite a lot of the guard. As you can see, we've taken the wheel off, and that gives us really good access in under here to this guard. So we'll put the mud flap back in place again. You see those bolts there, they're going to line up, and then hole down there, and there's one underneath. So we'll see what lines up and see what extra holes need to be made. As we see, put the mud flap on, and as you can see here, there's a hole there that's going to need to be made. So I'll put a clip on that. And there's a hole in there, which is going to line up with one of the bolts. There's a hole in there, which is going to line up with one of the bolts. And one up there again, which is going to line up with that bolt. You can actually see it there. So 1, 2, 3 bolts there to come out. We've got a new hole to make there, and also underneath, right there, there's a bolt to come out. So this is going to be very straightforward and easy to get on. So we've taken these 3 8mm bolts out from right here, up the side where the mud flap goes, and there's another mounting bolt out here, and another one underneath here, which we're going to take out, and then we'll put the mud flap back in. Okay, so this is a very straightforward, easy fix. Those 3 bolts up the side. This one here, I'll show you. I'm just going to get a knife and cut that. They're just wanting that mounted into here, just to hold it up, stop it from flicking forward into the tyre. So I've got the special little mounts, and I'll show you how that fitting that came with it. Just going to use one of their big-headed screws and a speed nut here. Now there's no hole there, so you're actually going to have to cut a slot. Not where you want to screw through, but cut a slot so that we can fit this in place. Cut a slot and then just slide it in so that this big circle's on the outside, but the bit that actually holds it together, that part, is on the inside. And then when the screw comes through, it'll have something to hold on to and screw into it. I'll go and fit this and show you how it looks. First, line up all the bolts so the mud flap is exactly where it's going to go, and make sure it's sitting right on the car and up snug and so forth. And then mark that center hole, and then we'll know whereabouts we're aiming for. And again, when you mark that center hole, look, do you want to be pulling it up? Do you want it down? Whereabouts do you want that? Particularly wanting to end up with that level, of course, across the bottom. So mark the center hole, and this is just like a cardboardy sort of weight-saving material here under where the splash of the tires goes. So then we get this little fitting, and we work out where it's going to fit and cut a slot to the side here, so we can slit that in place, and that'll then hold that so it can tighten up. There we go. We've cut a slit beside it, and now this way around, big hole on the outside and a little clip on the inside, we slide that over that slit. I'm going to open it up a little. There we go. I've opened it up a little bit. You see there's the hole with the screw and the little slot. stick that into the slot and push that across, and all of a sudden that hole now lines up, so there's something good and solid for that to screw into. So now we put it in and do it all together, do it all up. A mud flap, these original guys with the big heads are actually too big now. I'm going to have to use the screws that came with it. You can see they're smaller because there's just not enough room up there with the mud flap. So the mud flap is going to become the extra washer that was. So they do actually need to go back with the hardware that came with the mud flap, these smaller heads, because there just isn't enough room up in there for the great big head to fit. To getting this mud flap on is that there's a hole there, and all of these holes have these speed screws on them. So you see not only the hole has to line up, as you go on there, but you see the speed screw there is in place as well. The next one down, that one's dropped away, so that won't tighten up. Down in the corner, it's in place, so that will tighten up. So this one wouldn't tighten up, it's because the speed screw had dropped away. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll pull that cover out of the way. You see there how it's dropped away. That has to be pushed back into alignment so that it lines up like that. And then when the screws goes through, it'll tighten up. So that's the one little tip to make sure that the whole assembly's in line, and then the screw will do up. If the screw doesn't do up, get it out, because you don't want loose screws dropping out here near your tyres. You'll end up driving over them. And so that's done. We've got the screws in, and they're all super mega tight. 1, 2, 3. The secret is in these clamps. You have got to get these. They are under this felt material in there. They're actually on the plastic guard, but you have to get them tight. So you've got to squash them down and then slide them in place so that they stay. And I actually found a whole lot more success starting it just with a manual screwdriver, because if you press the drill in, it can bend that back part out of the way and doesn't pull up tight. So I started it with a manual screwdriver and then tightened it up with the drill. But that's the secret. They have to actually go in that way. They've got to stay in place so the screw can go through, and then when you start it, the screw has to catch through that back edge so it can pull up tight. Play with those. Those are on perfectly now. That has gone on the one I mounted just by cutting that little slot and hole, and the one underneath there as well is all done and nice and tight. So she's on. I'll tell you what, it's not going to come off. It's bolted on super tight. So very happy. There's the finished product. All done. And she won't be throwing muck up on that back corner anymore.